All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about the reference list. Now, I know it can feel like that last tedious chore you have to do before you can finally submit your paper. But here's the thing, getting it right is absolutely 100% critical. So today, we're going to break down exactly how to master it using APA 7th edition. So let me start by asking you a question, and it's a pretty high-stakes one. Imagine you've poured months, maybe even years into your research. You've written a brilliant paper. You click that submit button. What do you think is the #1 reason an editor might just reject it on the spot, without even sending it out for peer review? You might be surprised by the answer. It's not always a weak argument or a small sample size. A lot of the time, it's something as simple as a flawed reference list. Yep, if your manuscript doesn't perfectly match the journal's required style, it can get sent right back to you, which can seriously delay or even completely derail your path to publication. And that really brings us to the heart of it. Why does this one section of your paper carry so much weight? Well, because it's about a whole lot more than just getting the commas and italics in the right place. I want you to think of your reference list as the unique fingerprint of your research. It's the proof that you've done your homework. It gives other researchers a roadmap to check your sources, and it plants your work firmly in the ongoing academic conversation. It is, without a doubt, the bedrock of your credibility. So how do we make sure we get it right every single time? Well, instead of getting bogged down in what feels like a million tiny details, let's just boil it all down to just three golden rules. That's it, seriously, just 3 rules. If you can master these, I promise you, you are 90% of the way to a perfect reference list. Let's walk through them. Okay, rule #1 is beautifully simple. Cite it, list it. This just means that if you mention a source anywhere in the body of your paper, like you write, according to Smith 2021, then the full reference for that Smith article absolutely must be in your reference list at the end. No ifs, ands, or buts. And rule #2, well, it's the perfect mirror image of the first one. List it, cite it. You can't just pad your reference list with extra sources you might have read but didn't actually use in your paper. Every single entry you have in that final list has to connect back to a specific citation somewhere in your manuscript. And that brings us to the final golden rule. One style to rule them all. Every single entry has to be formatted perfectly and, just as importantly, consistently according to the style guide, which in this case is APA 7th edition. That consistency is what signals to editors and reviewers that you're professional and you pay attention to detail. All right, now that we've got the big principles down, let's get into the how. We're going to roll up our sleeves and tackle some of the most common formatting mistakes people make. Okay, take a look at this. It might seem like a tiny detail, but it is so important. I'm talking about the hanging indent. As you can see on the right, the correct way is to have the first line of each reference flush with the left margin, and then every line after that is indented. And this isn't just for looks, it makes the list way easier for a human to scan, and it's also crucial for the automated systems journals use for indexing. Now, when it comes to online sources, you need to know this. The DOI, or the Digital Object Identifier, is king. If a source has a DOI, you have to use it. Why? Because it's a permanent link that will always take you to that article, unlike a regular web link, which can change or break over time. So here's a quick and easy checklist for you. First, always look for that DOI. If you find one, format it as a full HTTPS link. No DOI? Okay, then you can use the regular URL. And here's a pro tip. Never, ever put a period or any other punctuation at the end of the DOI or URL. The only time you need to add a retrieved from date is for sources that can actually change, like a live web page where you couldn't find a publication date, which you'd mark as ND. Theory is great, but let's see what this looks like in the real world. Seeing a few concrete examples of the most common source types can really help these rules click into place. Okay, let's break this down, because once you see the patterns, it gets so much easier. Look at the journal article. See how the journal title and the volume number are in italics? Now shift your eyes to the book. For a whole book, the entire book title is italicized. Simple enough. But for a book chapter, it's a little different. The chapter title itself is plain text, but the book title it's in is italicized. And finally, for something like a report, you'll see the title of the report is italicized, and often the organization is listed as the author. Recognizing these patterns is the key. So let's bring this all together. Your reference list and your in-text citations. They're really two halves of the same whole. They have to match up perfectly. And this is where we start to get into the really serious stuff, the ethics of academic writing. So, how do these names actually show up in your paper? Well, you've got two main ways. You can put the citation in parentheses at the end of a sentence, or you can weave it into your sentence as part of the narrative, like when you say, Brown, 2019, found that. For one or two authors, it's pretty straightforward. And the great news is that with APA 7th, for three or more authors, it's super easy. You just use the first author's last name followed by et al. From the very first time you cite them. And that brings us to the most important point of all. A meticulously crafted reference list is your #1 defense against plagiarism. And this quote says it all. Failing to properly credit other people's work is a huge breach of ethics, and that includes self-plagiarism, which is reusing your own published work without citing it properly. At the end of the day, the responsibility falls on you, the author. Sure, journals use powerful software like Authenticate to scan every single submission for originality, but those tools are just the last line of defense. The real work of academic integrity happens when you're building your reference list, one citation at a time. So I want to leave you with this one final thought. Your reference list is never just a list. It's a direct statement about your rigor, your attention to detail, and your credibility as a scholar. So the next time you're putting the finishing touches on a paper, ask yourself this. Is your reference list building trust with your reader, or is it breaking it?